Hello there, many thanks for joining us on Joyasanya Live. On the show today we have Augustine Igweshi. He's a leading voice on youth inclusion and continental integration. He's the Executive Director of the Center for Peace, Advocacy and Sustainable Development, Director General of the African Transformer Institute, as well as the convener of the Youth Model Africa Union. They had a summit yearly. In a recent high-level meeting with the chairperson of the African Union Commission, Ambassador Igweshi urged the AU and member states to speed up ratification and domestication of three priority instruments: the African Youth Charter, the Protocol on Free Movement of Persons, and the AU Continental Framework on Youth, Peace and Security, arguing that slow implementation at national levels keep young people at margins of decision-making and blocks mobility, jobs, and peace building. He also presented Africa Transformer magazine, which highlights young Africans driving leadership and innovation across the continent. Today we speak with him about what needs to happen next, who must act, and how young Africans stand to benefit. Many thanks for joining us on the program.
Thank you, Joy.
Time to discuss Africa, the young people in Africa, and what needs to happen next for these three priority instruments that Ambassador Igweshi is pushing for. Discussing unlocking youth potentials, ratifying the African Youth Charter, and also the Protocol on Free Movement and AU Peace, Youth, Peace and Security Framework. Like I told you earlier, we have Ambassador Augustine Igweshi right here in the studio, Executive Director, Center for Peace, Advocacy and Sustainable Development. It's again such a pleasure to have you. You wear several hats, and which is not necessarily a bad thing, but how have you been able to manage everything? I know that you still have your thematic specific areas, which is your youth, peace, and advocacy around it and all that. How have you managed everything before we get into why those priority tools that you want attention on?
Okay, thank you, Joy. Prioritizing many things that we do is key because it's something that we are passionate about. It's something that we see that we want to advance. So we have a roadmap or an action plan to managing some of those things that we do. So it's not actually a big deal or a big issue for us because it's something that we're very passionate about and something we have committed ourselves to do. So we have a way, we have an action plan of how we do many things that we do.
Absolutely, I can tell. And the framework is so structured that right now, having done it for several years, is no longer feeling like hard work. I can imagine. Yeah. Okay, so briefly tell all of us how, why you have prioritized these three aspects: African Youth Charter, the Protocol on Free Movement, and the AU Peace, Youth, Peace, and Security Framework in your meeting with the AUC chairperson.
Okay, during my meeting with the AU chairperson, I highlighted this three key aspect of youth development as a priority that needed urgent attention. So the Youth Charter is a document developed by African Union or the member states, which encourages a document that can bring about youth development, youth empowerment, youth that can give the youth the platform for inclusion in governance, peace building, and the developmental aspect of the society. So the ratification of the Youth Charter is very, very important because it will bring about, it will ensure that youth are included not just in decision-making process, but also be part of the process of the African we want. So, and again, why mostly I advocated for the ratification of the free movement of person protocol is the challenges we had having young people to participate in our just concluded Youth Model African Union. There was a lot of bottleneck of young people traveling from one country to another. So because African Union already have a free movement protocol, which is part of AU blueprint to actualize the AU Agenda 2063. So now many countries have not ratified that, and it's also creating a very big issue, creating a very big movement for young people. So, for example, we had delegates that want to participate from South Sudan. So, for him, he traveled through the road to Kenya, and after participating in some event in Kenya, he needed to, from Kenya to Addis Ababa, and you know, Kenya is also part of Eastern Africa, so the distance is not that much. But when he got to the border, he was not able to cross. So the young man, you know, stayed in the border for many days, where we're trying to see how he can pass through the border. That not only him, so many young people who want to participate, they needed to apply for visa. They needed to, you know, the process of getting visa and all of that, and the process of approving visas by various embassies and all of that is a big challenge for young people who want to move from one country to another. Not just that, you know, the ratification of the free movement of persons will also enable goods and services.
Free
Entrepreneurship.
exactly.
Young people are innovative. They are very innovative, and their entrepreneurship journey cannot go beyond their country if that protocol is not ratified by
and implemented
by member states. So if you look at EU, you can travel to
even with your Schengen
EU
visa, exactly.
by train. But in Africa we have AU. Why can't we have that free movement of persons?
But I mean, Ambassador Igweshi, we've been talking about this for several years. Only some countries some African countries have started ratifying it or domesticating it, where all Africans have visa upon arrival, free entry into their countries. We've been talking about a currency that would also unite us as Africans as well, which would boost. I mean, we've had these conversations over and over. However, African countries are a sovereign state, and we have treaties and charters and pacts that we are part of. We don't seem to implement those. What do you think often impedes this implementation and domestication of noble and very laudable initiatives like this?
I think it is the political will by a member state to ratify such protocols or such charter. Or so some countries look at many things. They look at the economic impact of it on them, the security impact of it on them, and also they look at what it will actually benefit them on doing so. But I think countries that have ratified or are following the free movement, Rwanda, which recently did so, I think Ghana also did so.
Yeah.
You can see a lot of Africans traveling to those countries, which also create economic opportunity for both the citizens and people. You can just before you need to apply for visa to go to Rwanda, but now you can just board a flight
and off
go to Rwanda. Yeah. So that free movement is a big plus to Rwanda, because it has also boosted tourism and economic opportunity,
and they are becoming destinations for several travels and education and all of that, which is something to commend. Why do you think Nigeria, for instance, is still tough? Someone said it's tougher to get a Nigerian visa when you're not in Nigeria than it is than it is to get to any other country in the world.
Yeah,
and we also saw that reciprocative, according to the US, of course, they called it a reciprocative action against Nigeria when they toughen their immigration policies. A lot of people said it serves us right because it's tough. Why do you think, what do you think the AU at this point can do?
I think for Nigeria, maybe its foreign policy or diplomatic approach to such a thing, maybe the Nigeria foreign policy have not actually giving room for such. Just like you said, to get a Nigeria visa is like you want to get a US visa.
Exactly.
So Nigeria as a country are looking at so many things, ranging from insecurity, because Nigeria is currently battling a lot of insecurity. You know, people coming into their countries, maybe especially the neighboring countries, that, you know, the Sahel regions and all of that. So I think maybe one of the reasons why Nigeria have not actually, you know, ratified the free movement of persons. But
no, but free movement of persons does not mean a lack of documentation therein. I mean, you still know who comes into your country. We've spoken about how porous some African countries are. Nigeria is the most porous. I listened to a naval officer once talk about the many pathways into Nigeria, the leg pathways into Nigeria. So it's already porous enough as it is. Why don't you, you know, make it easier so that these people will not have to find pathways in the bushes to get into this country? They go through the right path where you can easily document them.
No, the porosity of Nigerian borders, that one has to do with illegality of things. So
but if it were any easier, if it were any easier, would then need to go through pathways?
No. If Nigeria say, okay, we have a free visa, you can come to, we don't need to apply for visa to come to our country.
And you don't.
Yeah, so many people will explore the option of coming through
legally,
the legal way.
right?
So, but now that it's not like that, you can see the borders have become porous, and the people try to find their way to enter Nigeria. But once Nigeria say, okay, like other countries, you can come to our country, don't need to apply for visa. We welcome visitors to explore our country and all of that. You see, many visitors will begin to come to Nigeria. And Nigeria, many African countries, like many citizens of African countries, want to come to Nigeria.
Absolutely.
Many of them, like, if you open the borders of Nigeria, both land and sea, you will see many Africans tripping to Nigeria, because we have traveled that we see how people want to visit Nigeria.
Exactly.
So
within Africa, when you travel within Africa, you feel so proud of being Nigerian.
Yeah.
Everybody wants to identify with you. Our music has gone viral, our fashion, our food, and then we happen to have swag. We can't help ourselves. We can't help ourselves.
But maybe it's one of the reasons why the government have not, you know, considered, because if you open borderland, you know, it may maybe become overwhelming for them. But that actually, it will also, but they just have to put a measure.
Absolutely.
Or maybe you have a limit. You can only stay 30 days.
You could
90
have,
months,
exactly.
90 days and all of that. You just need to have a limit, the number of days you need to stay.
You can stay.
So, you know,
just to curb your
yes.
in season
so
an exodus, if that's even the case.
People coming into countries actually contribute to the economy of that country, because people must buy something.
Absolutely.
They must trade something.
They'll stay in hotels.
All of that. Today I took some foreigners who came for training to Use Market to buy some things. They have contributed to the economy.
Absolutely.
Because they are buying things with Naira, they are trading with Naira.
Right.
So it's also, imagine receiving thousands or millions of visitors every month.
Exactly.
See how it will contribute.
A lot of countries in the world survive just by tourism.
Sure.
And you know, and we have so much. We've had this conversation before, where there's almost no state without something to showcase.
Absolutely.
We are that blessed. So I agree with you in that. But let's talk about the Youth Charter. I mean, this is the conversation you had with the AU Chairperson. I would like you to, you know, tell us why you believe in the Youth Charter and why you think countries within the AU should start the domestication of it.
Yes, the Youth Charter, like I said, is also a blueprint for accelerating youth development, inclusion, governance, and participation, as well as empowerment. So once domestication or ratification of Youth Charter is done by member states, it gives youth that there's not a legal framework, there's not a framework for youth, for development of youth. Although countries have their in-country youth policy.
Oh, absolutely.
So countries have their youth in-country policy, which also contribute, but you know, African Union as the continental body, it has a broader framework for youth development. So ratification of youth charter by member state, we see the tension of youth agitation, inclusion, and the youth participation in regional engagement. Do you understand? Regional engagement being included in a decision-making process, not just being consulted, because the agitation have been before, youth are not being consulted, youth are not being included, and all of that. But I think that is beginning to take a different shape. But now, what youth are even asking for is not just consultation. Is go beyond consultation. They can have been part of many youth consultation. So what is the outcome of the consultation?
Yes, after all this, bringing us together, you consult and all that.
Yes, you have been youth have been consulted. What next followed? They need that empowerment. They need that support system that can enable them, you know, stay out of being involved in social vices and also contribute to peace building and development of Africa. If you look at the African Union Agenda 2016, they have various aspirations. And one of the aspirations is a peaceful and secure Africa. And young people have been championing peace building, have been part of front line of, you know, but oftentimes they look at them as the perpetrators. Is true. But notwithstanding, young people have been in the front championing peace building effort across Africa. In conflict areas, young people lead peace building effort. In communities, young people contribute and champion peace building effort. So it's very, very important, or it's very apt that African member states who have not actually ratified the African Youth Charter should do so, because it will give the youth of that country that framework to participate, to engage, to get involved, and to be empowered to contribute to the African Union agenda, and not just the African Union agenda, but to the national development of their countries.
I mean, you keep talking about this ratification of the Youth Charter. My question now would be, you just mentioned in passing that the youth no longer need just consultation, but they should do more in ensuring that the youth have an opportunity to thrive. Can you break it down a bit? Because I don't know, what do you mean by opportunity to thrive? What's stifling the youth's progress or the youth blossoming in whatever aspect of life they pick?
Okay, you know, sometimes many countries or member states call for, you know, when youth have started agitating, when Gen Z have started, there is an uprising, they will not call on youth for consultation meeting, or they will organize one summit. Like
a reactionary
and say,
consultation.
We want to get you involved and all of that, and all of that. So addressing the real issue is to address the root causes why young people, you know, get involved you know, there's a high tension of young people participating or looking at issue of governance, looking at issue of just, for example, Madagascar, that recently abstained their president, they look at issue of corruption. Young people, their opportunity, the country have natural resources. The country have all it needs for development, for them to have a better life as young people, for them to have jobs, for them to have education, for them to have a good standard of living. But due to corruption, due to bad governance, this opportunity slipped on them. Money meant for youth development, money meant to develop the country are not being utilized. So what happened in Madagascar, because water issue, electricity, common basic amenities that are supposed to be in place to enable young people business to thrive. Young entrepreneurs, young people are very enterprising, they are very enterprising, and if the enabling environment is not there, it affects their businesses, it affects the opportunity they are supposed to get. So if government can address these issues, create an enabling environment, tackle corruption, ensure that young people have what they need to thrive, you see that those uprising, those agitation will begin to go down. And That is why you say they should not just be consulted, they should be provided with the environment to thrive in their business,
I mean,
in their innovation.
Igweshi, we've been here before, and I can't help but remember the just concluded general elections in Nigeria. That's in 2023, yes, yeah. 2023, where we championed a youth awareness about the political process. We went on and on talking about how young people can look into who their leaders really are beyond the facade, beyond the monies and all those inducements. Look into this person, forget the ethnicity of this individual, look into that. We saw the sway. We saw that at the end of the day, the engagement and conversations when you have with young people, the African youth, this isn't peculiar to Nigeria. Yeah. When you have across Africa and you want to engage them on why are you voting this person, the question is, oh, it is the turn of the North, it's the turn of the South. Too many times these people have ruled. You hear very primordial responses and you ask yourself, how are you living your entire 4 years? The quality of the air that you breathe is going to be dependent on this man's decision. The quality of the meals that you have, the very fact that you can afford meals and like you said, basic amenities is in the hands of this individual, and your sifting or filtering process is to say he comes from the North, you know. How do we change that? Because that is the bedrock. The young people would vote in and then expect different. They will collect the rice, because in Nigeria, we love rice. And so whatever happens, you cry, they give you rice. You laugh, they give you rice. They are coming for elections, they give you rice. You protest, they give you rice. So that's it. What happens? How can we change that so that the orientation is such that the leaders that we will henceforth get are ones that love their countries, love Africa, love the young people, understand the role that young people play in shaping the nation?
I think the key issue is that young people do not trust the system anymore. There's a mistrust between the government and young people. So, and they believe that even though the election cannot be fair and credible, so even though I vote for my candidate, he is not going to win. The election will not be fair and credible. So that mistrust have also changed some narratives. And some young people are very gullible in terms of so they live on what they can get at the moment. Do you understand? And politicians has a way of brainwashing young people. Understand?
For how long are these young people going to be brainwashed? I mean, we've been there over and over. You hear them say, okay, after all, my votes don't count, and so let me get what I can get at the moment. But then you expect different. I mean,
yeah, this has been the norms for a long time, but we believe that one day we will see a change. But as it is, because of what happened in the 2020 general election, there's a distrust between the government. But if you see 2023 would have made some difference. But if the election had, some people believe it wasn't fair, there was use of force and all of that.
What do you believe?
What do I believe?
What do you believe?
Oh, I was an election observer.
Exactly. That's why I'm asking, what do you believe? I was reporting the elections as a journalist, and you were an election observer. If there's anybody who has an opinion with empirical fact, is you and I. Well, what do you believe?
I can talk about the polling unit where I observed.
And what did you and your fellow observers believe?
No, we send our report
to the situation room.
Yes,
what was
no for the areas where I observe. The only thing that happened that the issue of uploading of results
was not as
yes,
premium time as it was advertised.
Did not work. It did not work. Result was not uploaded. But I can say that on the day of election, the polling unit observed, many people stayed back till around 10 p.m. to ensure that that result, there's nobody tampers with the result. They stayed back. They fought that the result must be as it is. I don't know when it left the polling unit because I did not follow them to the local government.
Right.
I don't know what happened there. But at that polling unit, they showed that of the everybody vote was counted, the vote was counted, and they observe it. I think the issue is when the vote leave the polling unit, where the journey to local government, to state,
we've been
then
here
to
before.
national. So
it's the funniest thing.
I think it's
the funniest
process.
Thing where everybody has recorded a certain number, but when it is being read from the state election office, you're like, no, that's not the number we counted for our polling unit. It's very unfortunate. That in itself, the very fact that people have to stay back and ensure that the right thing is done, in itself tells you a breakdown in the whole process. But let's move forward because we've gone halfway into this conversation, believe it or not, and we still have not discussed free movement of persons. We've done a good job discussing youth, peace and security. So much more to discuss. We have been discussing Africa. Well, we've gotten the conversation to having discussed rather the free movement of persons, the benefit to ensure Africa, within Africa, the continent, we have free movement. We've also discussed peace, youth and security and the peace charter. And there's so much more to talk about when we discuss Africa. We had just talked about leadership, our sifting process, and the many challenges we have within Africa. But let's go to security, where it seems like all of a sudden there are agitations here and there within Africa, and the role that youth play in ensuring peace.
Okay, in Africa, there is okay, let me start with the United Nations Security Council Resolution 2250, which is part of broader framework for youth engagement or participation in peace building process. From there, we have the African Continental Framework on Youth, Peace and Security. So, which one of those things I discussed with the AU Chairperson. I urge the member states through the AU Chairperson for the domestication of African Continental Framework on Youth, Peace and Security and development of National Action Plan on Youth, Peace and Security. So from time immemorial, young people have been actively participating in peace building processes across Africa. So not until recently, around 2015, the work of young peace builders beginning to get traction and recognition.
Yeah.
So young people, you can see AU has a lot of initiative that involve that get young people involved in peace building process. One of them, the African Union Peace Ambassadors Program. The application is currently on. I think it was published a few days ago. Each year, the African Union selects six from the six regions. One person to represent
the nation,
the region in the African Union as African Union Youth Ambassador for Peace. From there, the African Union Youth Ambassador for Peace will be participating in peace building process in the African Union, also bringing such initiative to each regional body like the ECOWAS, because we have the AU Youth Ambassador for West Africa. Okay, for West Africa. So all of that is a broader approach for there's also Youth-Wise by the African Union Peace and Security, African Union Political Affairs Peace and Security Department. So all of these are broader framework AU have developed to ensure that young people are actively participating in peace building process. And young people, as I know, have been actively participating in peace building process across Africa, and they have leading peace building effort. The only issue is that young people often do not have, they feel that government are not doing what they are supposed to do.
Yeah.
So if government, like a lot of tensions, unrest, Gen Z rise up in different countries having as a result of bad governance. So if there is good governance, I don't think that young people will begin to, pick up arms and or getting involved in violent conflict. So if we look at countries that are ranked the most peaceful countries in the world, you look at the development index, you look at the human capital development, you look at opportunity for young people in that country, you see that it's very, very high. Country like Finland, something like Norway, Sweden, Ireland, all of those countries, you see that the rate of unemployment is almost at zero level.
Yes.
Young people cannot, in that country, just wake up and begin to agitate that they don't have job or they don't have
There was such a time I saw
amenities.
an agitation that I think the government had increased the retirement age by a year, and they went to protest. Why would you increase our retirement age? And I laughed and said, oh my goodness, Nigerians are falsifying their ages just so they can have longer times.
Yeah.
And that's just what you mean here. Unemployment and the issues that people face would determine how peaceful the place is. And in truth, if you give everybody work, if everybody has opportunity to work, nobody will have the will commit a lot of crimes.
I wonder.
That's very true.
So yeah, if everybody has the opportunity for you to, when you graduate from school, well, if you look at the 70s, 80s, when people graduate from school, work will be waiting for them. Do you hear anything about insecurity like that?
Of course
you don't
not.
Hear about that.
They were busy. Everyone is busy.
Yeah, your person who has a business and business is thriving, what time will he have to go and get himself involved in? Or if you want to go to school, there's free education. If you want to go to hospital, you don't need to go and borrow money to go to hospital.
Right.
There is free medical care where you can do insurance and all of that. Basic amenities for young persons to try. Once it's there, the enabling environment for business, education, entrepreneurship, employment, all of this, the economic opportunity for young people. Once it's there, once it's there, you see that the rate of crime, the rate of involving in violent conflict reduces,
Of course.
and all of that. So I think all of this addressing the root causes, but sometimes in Africa we do not address the root causes of a problem. We just jump into the problem and begin to do some. I don't know.
I think they call it bandage solutions, where you do not address what's causing it, and then you just bandage it.
Just like what is happening across Africa now. If you say, okay, there is insecurity, you now begin to target or want to use the kinetic means. If you have not addressed the non-kinetic means,
it is not going to
sustainable
peace.
So it's not a sustainable approach. So the issue is that government should address the root causes of all this by providing enabling environment, economic opportunity for young people, education. Also if you look at the global peace index, the countries that are peaceful, you see education level is very high. Somebody who have gone to school, finished secondary school, university, I don't think he have gotten basic orientation and knowledge.
I can argue that because some politicians who get into office after going through this same school you're discussing, they conduct themselves in such ways that you ask yourself, I thought we thought education was going to refine these individuals, but that's just by the way. You kept mentioning organizations, peace builders, young people who are championing peace, organizations that have sprung up over the years in Africa trying to ensure that there's peace among young people. But what would you say the challenges has been? Because young people are still perceived to be perpetrators. We are a bit skeptical when it comes, peace building is coming from young people. So what are those challenges?
Young peace builders across Africa have also faced many challenges in their peace building efforts.
Right.
Sometimes they lack the institutional support to carry out their peace building activities, and all of that also contribute to their struggle in their peace building effort. So if they have that institutional support, if they have that environment where they can conduct their peace building activities without fear, or you see that their peace building will continue to make a significant part. Across Africa, when you gather young people together and ask them what is your biggest challenge in leading peace building efforts in your country, you also look at the space that is shrinking, repression, and all of that. You look at institutional support, look at a lot of young peace builders trying to get resources to carry out their peace building activities, and all of that. So all of this contribute to the broader challenges young people face in their peace building effort.
Now let's talk about the Youth Model African Union summit that you have yearly. I think I attended that one, the one I participated in. That was
a testament to,
yes,
to that.
And it opened up. It opened up first for those who may not know what we have now started delving into the young Youth Model African Union. It's a very beautiful platform that you started, where young people have a peek sort of into those negotiations that comes when they have the African Union Assembly, and it was a wonderful one. We had representations from all the countries within Africa, and young people had, let me not say too much, I think this is the time when, but I'm excited because I was part of it, and I was Cabo Verde.
Yeah, Cabo Verde.
I was Cabo Verde.
I believe that through that program you have got to know about Cabo Verde.
Cabo Verde, absolutely. Yeah. I would have probably said
you don't know about
Cape Verde. So initially I would have said Cape Verde, but now you get to learn about other countries. And the beautiful thing you did was, I mean, individuals had to adopt other countries. You know, I'm Nigerian. I didn't represent Nigeria, so you had everyone had an opportunity to understand, to represent other countries
and learn about the countries.
So let's talk a bit about that, because I know you just also concluded a summit.
So Youth Model African Union is a platform we created to for young people to understand the system structures of the African Union, and for them to gain knowledge of on foreign policy, negotiation, research, public speaking. Because when you want to understand how African Union work and how decisions are made by the region, by the continental body, African Union. So in this essence, is simulation of African Union. So we simulate various organs of the African Union, from the AU Assembly to Peace and Security Council to Banjul Commission to ECOSOC to special technical sections. So in that process, delegates are assigned a country to represent, and they're given about 2 to 3 months, 1 to 3 months, to do a deep research, understanding the country they're representing, foreign policy, you know, making their stand in the AU, making a commitment. So it exposes young people to idea of diplomacy, idea of negotiation, idea of consensus building, and idea of collaboration. So with all of that encompassing component of Youth Model African Union, it exposes you to wider society, not just with your country, but the country you have been assigned to. For example, you that were assigned Cabo Verde, now you have learned one or more things about them. I learned
so much because I needed, my document had to have a stand, you know, so I had to learn so much about Cabo Verde and other countries actually, because I also had to counter certain
because in the negotiation table you need to state your country's position. So that's some persons who don't have that communication skill or that have that negotiation thing actually learn it through the process, and those who who are not good with research have to adapt to research, understanding how countries negotiate at the African Union,
Absolutely.
how their country voices are heard, what they are supposed to do, and how they are going to supposed to do them. And that, with that broader knowledge they have, they go back to their country to ensure that, okay, I have learned this. This is how these things are done in the African Union. From there, they begin to contribute to the continent, their country member state portfolio or approach to negotiation. In the future, some of the delegates in the future may want to become ambassadors.
Absolutely.
To their various countries. They may want to pursue career in diplomacy and international affairs.
And this gives them the foundation
Yes.
to understand how to approach, and that was a beautiful one. You've had a very interesting year for some of us who, you and I communicate a lot on the activities that we both do in our different organizations. You've had a very interesting year. You've been very busy, really.
Yeah.
What plans, I mean, as the year is rolling to an end, what plans are you penning down for 2026?
A lot of things we want to continue, scaling up some of our activities, coming up with new ideas and how to, better the society, how young people can get more involved in peace building process, ensuring that there is a full participation of young people. So this year we also looking at, this year will be 10th year anniversary for the African Union Peace and Security Council, 2250. By December 9th, it will be 10th year. So we are also commemorating that. From then, we're looking at AU Summit coming up in February next year. So we're looking at how young people also be part of that initiative, host side events at the AU, ensure that young people get involved in the process of that approach, because then countries, a lot of these issues are discussed. That is where African member states gather at the AU headquarters to address issues that concern Africa and also make their country commitment. Just like as you see the COP30 that was just held in Brazil, how young people were advocating, negotiating. That is how we want to see how young people can get involved in that AU summit, negotiate, advocate for the development of Africa and for youth engagement as well.
Oh, that's very interesting. And for those who may be wondering how to participate come 2026, I know that you have a website.
Sure,
Can you kindly share?
So our website is always open, and we have www.cepasdafrica.org.
Okay.
That is CEPASD Africa.
Yeah, but say it again. That's
okay. www.cepasdafrica.org. Yeah, right. That is our official website. You can also contact us through email, info@cepasdafrica.org, or you can call us on the phone on +234 907 2790 2541.
Right. Well, that has been a very interesting conversation with Ambassador Augustine Igweshi, the Executive Director, Center for Peace Advocacy and Sustainable Development. Thank you so much for being part of the show.
Thank you, Joy. It's always a pleasure. Thank you for putting me in a hot seat.
You weren't on a hot seat. You were just talking about what you know how to do best. But I've had a wonderful time learning so much about the things that you do and how young people can also be part of peace building across Africa. If there's such a time we've ever needed it, it is now. So join the peace train and let's have peace within the country. Thank you once again for being part of the show. This is where we draw the curtains on today's edition of Joy Asanye Live. I've had a wonderful time. Until next time.